Hey, welcome all to the Common Good Podcast, a Tuesday politics edition on this wonderful Thursday, December 13th. Tuesday, December 13th. It's a Tuesday podcast brought to you on Thursday, only in my little mind. Hey, so happy Tuesday, everybody. Minneapolis, it's cloudy and wintry outside today. What's it like there in Arkansas, Rob?
It is cloudy, a little rainy, but not super cold. It's in the low 60s today.
Oh, lovely. Dan, how about Michigan?
It's cold and gray.
There you go. Winter,
like it always is.
Yeah, like your heart, just like your heart. Hey, we're deep in the heart of the holiday season. I can't say Christmas anymore
because of the war on Christmas.
Are in charge. Yeah. So Christmas is out, but deep in the holiday season, I received something. I'm gonna hold this up, see if you guys can read it. You know what that is? That's to the Pagitt family from the White House. From the White House.
Wow.
I got a Christmas card from the Bidens. A Christmas card from the Bidens. Who knew that the godless Bidens, that the godless Democrats would send you a Christmas card? And you know what it says on the inside? Well, you're about to find out. May this holiday season bring us together in faith, hope, and love.
Wow.
The minute you think your messaging's not working, it's gotten to the Christmas card crowd over there.
We really should have copyrighted that faith, hope, love thing.
I mean, in faith,
being
hope,
the
and love,
first ones to
trademark.
do it.
Yeah, trade. It's our trademarks. What that is. If you don't know, we travel the country with a faith, hope, and love message, asking for faith voters to consider faith, hope, and love as their guiding point to the common good. And who cares about that? The Bidens do. Yep. Nice little Christmas card. And I got to tell you, it's a classy card. It's a pullout. I mean, I thought there should be, some pop-up or something on it, but that's they're sparing no expense. I don't know who pays for this stuff. I don't know.
Who pays for the cards?
Who bought the paper? But look, it's got little hearts in there. It's real classy.
Yeah.
One that I might keep. I was looking for a personal salutation, but I actually think it's just from being on it's also, geez. Look, I should look more closely. It includes from, Jill and Joe.
Got Champ.
And from, what is that, Wilbur or something?
Willow and Commander.
And Commander.
Didn't they have to get rid of one? Yeah.
Champ might have been the one that
bit a Secret Service guy or something.
Nothing diminishes a sincere holiday greeting than pretending it came from your dogs. Like, just nothing says we don't mean any of this, because you know who signed off on this? Our puppy signed off on this. That's hilarious.
They have a dog named Wilbur.
I don't know. Maybe it's not their dog. Maybe it's
Willow.
Maybe it's one of their grandchildren.
Willow.
Maybe it's one of their grandchildren.
They have a horse named Wilbur.
I think I'm going to set it over here on the side so it shows up.
That's very exciting, Doug.
Can I tell you something about what struck me about this, though?
Mm-hmm.
For 4 years, we watched a parade of religious leaders go into the White House, lay their hands on the failed presidential candidate and insurrectionist leading, twice impeached man. And I was never invited to that. Dan, were you ever invited as a former worship leader? Or Rob,
I was not.
No, me either. Wasn't on their list. Then a new administration comes in, whole new list of people end up on there, and Christmas cards from the office of the White House go out to another crowd of people.
It's still not on that list, but
yeah, I'm not on that list either. But
wow, this just came yesterday. I would check your mail.
I bet mine's in the mail.
Yeah, check your mail. Or maybe they only send it to executive directors and above or something. Some nonsense. I don't know how I feel. I'm glad to get it. I'm glad to be on their mail list. I do stuff at the White House and for trying to elect Joe Biden and so on. But come on, I don't know. It feels a little funny. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Like I certainly don't take it personally. Like, oh, what a great thing that I'm important because the president thought about me. It was a database mail merge.
Yeah, that's right. The president
this.
did not think about you. No.
There's actually a greater chance that Commander thought of me on this holiday season and wanted to send a Christmas greeting than Joe or Jill. So that's just truth be told when it comes to all that. But hey, we're in the political season, and we're in the political work, or we're in the holiday season, we're in the political work. So
Yeah.
Did make me feel bad about not sending Christmas cards. Do you cats send Christmas cards? Are you Christmas card senders?
I think we're doing it this year. We've gone several years without. Limited run. I don't know if you guys will make the list or not, but
you're really gonna crush Rob's spirit if he doesn't get a card from Joe and Jill, or from Dan. Hey, what do you do, Dan? Do you write a letter that sort of updates everybody on the whereabouts and the happenings of the family?
Way too much work.
Okay,
it's a postcard. That said, we haven't made the postcard yet, and the clock is ticking. So,
what you're going to be? You're going to be one of those people at Valentine's Day that's like, "Hey, we missed the season, but we love you. Happy Valentine's Day."
Send Valentine's.
We didn't get our card out of time.
Yeah, I got a Christmas card in the mail this week from a friend of mine who, typically, Christmas cards, you get the posed family picture. Everybody's got their sweaters on in, late August if they're organized to get this done in time. And, you try to make it look, holiday-ish and appropriate and all of that. You've all seen this. I got a Christmas card yesterday from a friend of mine, and the Christmas card pictures were vacation pictures from when they went to Turks and Caicos earlier in the year.
Oh yeah,
and
their eyes are a little
shirtless.
There you go.
Picture of my friend in his swimsuit in Turks and Caicos. I'm just like, what is this?
And you got to stick that to your fridge with a magnet and look at it.
You're reminding me at the holidays, the end of the year, that you had a better year than I did, because
at least a better vacation.
Yeah, you got to go to Turks and Caicos.
Yeah. Hey, I know a lot of people don't want to talk about politics after a big political season. For sure, it makes all the sense in the world. Doesn't mean the work doesn't still go on. It doesn't mean you don't have things to be up to and to be busy with. And today we're going to be talking with Stephannie Baker. Probably shouldn't call her Steph until I've met her. Should nickname her George Bush this thing. Stephannie Baker, and she helps women run for office, part of a large effort of women running for office. So in a few minutes, you're gonna have a chance to meet her and hear about all that, because you need good people running for office, because if not, you're gonna get the J.D. Vances and the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Gottsarts and the Trumps and the.
Speaking of J.D. Vance, Doug, J.D. Vance is going to be. In January, is going to be United States Senator, much to our chagrin, after, working and efforting I like to use efforting. I like to use effort as a verb.
Somehow turned effort into a verb.
Efforting, the candidacy of Tim Ryan for the United States Senate. So J.D. Vance, as a United States Senator, has tremendous power. Influence, one of 100 people in the country with that kind of influence and power, and he's kind of set a legislative agenda. He's set his number one priority that he's going to be focused on when he becomes United States Senator in just a few weeks. Would you like to guess what his number one priority is going to be?
What would a newly elected Republican from Ohio want his agenda to be?
Prosecute Fauci.
Okay, good guess. Nope.
I would probably say something to do with an old laptop, and probably a hunting and fishing laptop.
Nope. No.
I don't know. See, I don't know why Republicans are opposed to hunters. I thought they were big with the hunters. I don't know why they're digging around and
Yeah, that's a dumb joke. J.D. Vance's number one legislative priority is
it's a dumb joke.
It was a dumb joke. His number one legislative priority is to get rid of pornography. To get rid of pornography.
Period?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. Is that
the war on? Can I read to you from Yahoo News?
The war on porn.
The war on porn. The war on porn could get even worse in 2023, thanks to new Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, who said he wants to ban pornography nationwide. Vance's proclamations come at a time when fringe extremists, including Ye, the rapper formerly known as Kanye West, are pushing for porn prohibition. Their demands may lack legal grounding, but they pose serious threats. He goes on to say, this is a quote from J.D. Vance, I think the combination of porn and abortion have basically created a really lonely, isolated generation that isn't getting married. They're not having families, and they're actually not even sure how to interact with each other.
Well, I think that's true. He's case in point. I mean, there's a man who was just socially stunted and doesn't actually know how to interact, and is quite desperately lonely enough that he had to run for Senate. So yeah, I mean, it's testimonial to, he's a testimony to his own argument. Yeah. So he's saying that abortion keeps people from getting married. In other words, if we didn't have abortion, then more people would get married because there's a baby on the way. That's the argument there.
Yeah, you're parsing and looking for logic here, where it might not exist.
No, well, he wasn't. He didn't open a dictionary and just pull out words. Like, he was trying to make a point. You think his point is shotgun marriages are what's made America great? That's incredible.
You know what we need to get back to? The good old days.
The good old days when
Pa
said you're going to marry the woman. You think you're getting this milk for free? Okay, just read that again, because every time you say porn, I get uncomfortable. So just.
I think the combination of porn and abortion.
As
like we need to think about that cocktail.
It's a combo deal, sure. Abortion porn.
When I think about the combination of porn and abortion, they've basically created a really lonely, isolated generation that isn't getting married. They're not having families.
Married. There it is. They're not getting married and having families.
Yeah, and they're actually not even sure how to interact with each other.
So why would someone get married, according to J.D. Vance?
Yeah.
Well, so you can have sex and have your sexual pleasures fulfilled, as opposed, and not usurp that with pornography, and because you have to, because you didn't have access to terminate a pregnancy in its early days.
Because
that's incredible.
Wait. Because you had sex. So is the pornography keeping people from having sex? Or not keeping people from
maybe
having sex?
To reduce abortions, we need more porn.
Yeah, is pornography making more sex and therefore more babies that then...
I don't know, J.D. Vance.
I mean, honest to goodness, these people. Now, you sure that's a real story and that's not from like The Onion or from the Lark News or something, that it was written by a comedy writer that said, let's put together some proposals?
This is from the Daily Beast in Yahoo News.
Wow.
Article written by Sherry DeVille.
Wow. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh.
But listen, and I want to personally applaud the senator-elect from Ohio for really digging in and tackling the big issues that we face as a country.
Well, okay.
Look, he's diagnosed a problem. People are lonely.
They are lonely.
I think he's misdiagnosed the cause of that.
Yep.
Yes.
Listen, now could we?
Solution. It is a problem that there's this generation of isolated people that don't have social skills, and one of them was our president. So it's not just kids. It's it goes all the way back to the 71, 73-year-olds.
I don't want to go all like old school conservative on you here, but is it the job of the United States federal government to address loneliness.
Only the lonely.
Like,
Yeah, hey, that's a
seriously,
good that's a good point.
Is that the job of the federal government?
You know who's going to help you feel less lonely? You're a federal representative. Slide right in and snuggle right up.
I'm here from
You'll
the government.
Feel lonely no more.
From the government, and I'm here to help.
I'm from the government. I'm here to help you feel less lonely.
A government-appointed special friend.
All right, so what? Let's talk about how this is smart. We at least have the capacity to find the ridiculousness in it, laugh at it, slough it off. What's an opponent to JD Vance going to say? No. Hey, I'm for pornography, right? That's what he wants. He wants, countervailing forces in the Republican Party and, of course, Democrats and all the other independents that I don't even know what they're part of anymore. The Angus Kings, the Bernie Sanders, the Kirsten Sinemas. They want all those people to have to come out and say to him, we're opposite of everything that you think is important, so we want to be pro-porn. He's going to then try to turn the Democratic Party into the pro-pornography party
and reinforce the groomer.
Which I know a lot of Republicans that are really into pornography, so I think he's going to run into a little backroom work there that. I watched I watched this "So Help Me God" documentary about Jerry Falwell Jr. I know what these folks are into.
My goodness.
I mean,
what a fantastic documentary.
Wait, is that documentary called "So Help Me God"?
Mm-hmm.
And the Mike Pence book is called "So Help Me God"? Or
is that true?
No, it might not be called "So Help Me God."
In God we trust, in the Trinity. Did you talk about the Trinity in there? Because that'd sort of be the theme of that documentary.
It'd be great if they were both called the same thing, but
well, Rob could look it up. That Trinity joke is a good one. That Trinity joke is gonna.
That was not a dumb joke.
Well, thank you for your quick judgment.
Totally redeemed yourself.
Well, thank you everybody for listening to the podcast.
God forbid. God forbid.
God forbid. Not in God we trust. Sort of the opposite. Yeah. But that thing, I'll tell you, is worth watching. But there's all, look, I mean, truthfully, when JD Vance says, what I'm going to go after is pornography. What was the big news story around Donald Trump paying money to a person via Michael Cohen that got Michael Cohen convicted of a federal crime? He was paying a pornography star who he had sex with. Donald Trump is a real life pornography sex doer. Yeah. Like, it's just incredible.
He's been on the cover of Playboy. Like, hasn't he? Like, isn't it? I don't know.
Do they put? I don't.
Is that another one where he photoshopped himself onto it, like the Time magazine person of the year?
I feel like Playboy used to be something that wouldn't put Donald Trump on the cover, but maybe I have long not seen.
No. Maybe what I'm picturing in my head, and this is terrifying.
I can only imagine what you're trying to avoid right now.
Is Donald Trump next to Jerry Falwell Jr. and his wife, all with their thumbs up, and on the wall behind him is like
in
the
documentary, yeah.
No. This is like, I don't know. This is picture from the campaign in 2016. Listen, what JD this is. I mean, part of me thinks these people don't actually believe this stuff. That's what I've thought about so much, and then the Mark Meadows texts come out, and I think, oh, holy hell, these people might actually believe all this stuff.
Yeah. So, what are the Mark Meadows texts? Is this a recent thing?
Yeah. So Mark Meadows had a very brief period of time where he was cooperating with the January 6th Commission. And in that brief period of time, he turned over text messages and records that were and now he hasn't turned over everything, and he is now fighting the release of them and the use of them in court because somebody got to him apparently and flipped him back, and so those, there's journalists now that have gotten a hold of these texts, and basically the release yesterday was that there was something like 34 members of Congress, 34 Republican members of Congress texted Mark Meadows seeking offering advice, offering support, offering ideas about how to overturn the election, and parroting the big lie. And
full on. I mean, Mark Meadows was the chief of staff to Trump. So if you're not following all the back characters and all this, so what makes that important is that the chief of staff of the president of the United States, while he was the chief of staff and while the porn star lover was the president of the United States, was getting these text messages from Congress people calling for martial law, calling for all kinds of nonsense to go on, fake electors, the whole thing. So they have text records of this, and sending conspiracy theories, like wackadoodle conspiracy theories about some Italian businessman uploading to satellites data that then would be beamed into the internet connected of polling stations to change votes. Only the Donald Trump line of the vote. Like, it's just crazy business.
Like up there with the space lasers. From, what's her name?
So,
So what Rob's getting at is these are private messages. This isn't like people just standing in front of a camera. This is a sitting congressperson sending a message to the chief of staff of the president of the United States in a personal text saying, I think you should do this. I think you should pay attention to this. Show this to the president. And it shows you that these people aren't just panning for the cameras when they say this stuff. Right. They mean it. Like they're sending it privately. They don't think anyone's ever going to see it. This is not for... it's not because the voters need us to talk about this, which is what we often say, like these people are just playing to the voters because the voters have. No, they're the ones that are hardwired in. Yes. And they're convincing their voters to be hardwired in.
That's the scary thing. That's the realization that I'm having, is that I think I've always assumed that like these people know better and they're just playing the part. And and you look at something like this with JD Vance and you think, oh, he's just pandering to religious conservatives. He's after my mom's vote. He wants the unending loyalty and support of people like my mom, who, when I was in high school, led a protest at a local pharmacy. I think it might have been a CVS, because they had Playboys like available behind the counter that you had to act like, you could buy the Playboy at the CVS, but it was behind the counter. And my mom led a protest of that CVS to get those Playboys removed from behind the counter. So like my mom
who would have thought 25 years ago she would vote for the president of the United States, a man who had spent time with a actual porn star. Yeah. That's just what your mom's come a long way, baby. I mean, I'll tell you, just very Virginia Slims ever.
When she finds out that JD Vance is, leading the cause against pornography, he's immediately going to become her favorite senator. And, so like there's a whole generation of people like, I think there's a whole swath of people so I think, that he's just pandering to these folks.
Yeah.
And then you read the Mark Meadows text and you're like, oh, maybe these people aren't pandering. Maybe they're true believers. Maybe they actually believe this stuff. That's even more terrifying than the thought that they're just pandering.
Yeah, look, do you think Marjorie Taylor Greene was joking when she said, and she's the congresswoman from Georgia who's been very insurrectionist supporting, when she said in front of that crowd of young Republicans a day or so ago that had Steve Bannon and I organized the January 6th events, we would have won and we would have been armed? Do you think she was just joking? No, I think she was being playful with a thing she really believes. I think she really believes that had she not been, disinvited. I mean, she's so toxic. Even the people planning the January 6th activities and pre-insurrectionist parties didn't want to include her. So she's really a piece of work. All these people, I think, are really something. Hey, and we don't want to only talk about Trump news, because there's other really good news, but we'll talk about Trump in a second. But did you see that Biden's approval ratings are getting up near 50%?
Yep.
I'll tell you, if anything should dissuade you from caring for 1 minute about polling approval ratings, I think it should be that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's changed? Oh, his people won. People like to support a winner. Why were his approval ratings so low? Because people were banging the life out of the guy.
Yep.
Right. And they were just talking about what a failure he is. And I wasn't getting this done. So people are like, oh, I don't know, what all I hear is nothing's going right. And he's probably not doing a good job. And then the people that are on his side are elected into office, and people are like, hey, that guy's doing a heck of a job. Way to go, Joe. Yep. So this kind of like approval rating thing, but now he's pushing 50%. It's really it's a turn of fortune in American politics that is so rapid. It's kind of shocking, actually, how fickle the American the American population, the American movement is.
Yeah, especially when you think about how, like, you fully expect that people's opinions and their approaches are like hardwired in, right? Like, we think of the electorate as being, everybody kind of has their mind made up. There was very little, to the point of nothing, besides resigning, that Donald Trump could have done that would have said, that would have led me to say, hey, I approve of the job this guy is doing.
Yeah, right.
Just wouldn't have happened. And there are people, the Let's Go Brandon bumper sticker people, are never going to approve of the job that Joe Biden is doing, no matter what gas prices are. But there are enough people.
Gas prices.
There are enough people out there that, like, they can change their minds. They are they are persuadable. Like, that's kind of the shocking thing to me, that that things could move at all, or in any demonstrable way.
Well, and normally what happens, and I think that's the case on these approval ratings, it moves in two places. There's some 3, 4, 5% of people that are really not partisan and kind of don't care, and they're willing to sort of move around the pile. Most of the increase, though, with a president, when they increase or decrease in their approval rating, it comes from their own party.
Yes, from their base.
And so what has happened is that now people who voted for Joe Biden, or were likely to vote for Joe Biden, or did vote for Joe Biden, are now saying, okay, I think he's doing a good job, because it turns out that things weren't quite as difficult as we thought that they were going to be. So I think that's what's going on. And that's the other thing that happens in approval ratings, because truthfully, we've reached a point now, which maybe we'll get back to a Gulf War, or do an Iraq War, or a September 11th kind of moment in the country, when it won't matter what political party people are around, they're going to come together. But since then, or other than those times, we don't have a lot of examples of any president getting much above 50% approval rating. Like, there's just half the country that says, I don't think the person's doing is doing a good job, no matter what's going on, no matter what they're doing.
But
so the new bar is somewhere in the 50% range.
And
if you can get
listen,
there,
folks that listen to this podcast, longtime listeners know that I was concerned that in the first year of his presidency, that Joe Biden was going to get tagged with a reputation of someone who couldn't get stuff done. That, all the best intentions, but execution was going to be the problem. And I feared that, the lasting image of his presidency was going to be, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and that what looked like on the outside to be a debacle and chaos. I thought that was going to be the script that would play over and over and over again on every issue. As it turns out, in his first 2 years as president, Joe Biden has turned out to be a tremendously effective president
Yeah.
who has gotten so very much done, including, this week, the return of Brittany Griner from Russia, the WNBA player who had been arrested in Russia, and the return of her. You've got the victory in Georgia, where Joe Biden becomes the first sitting president to pick up seats in the United States Senate in forever. It's just remarkable, the job that he's
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And I still have significant policy disagreements with him on a number of things. There's just a whole host of things that I wish he would do more, or his approach would be a little bit different. I'm not a big fan of what's happened with the railroad union and all of that. And yet here's a guy who I don't know, Doug, are we going to get tired of winning? I think that's what I'm saying. I think we're going to get tired of winning.
Well, as we joked over text on election night, which, boy, I sure hope no news agency ever gets a hold of that text.
Seriously.
But as we joked, no one has probably done more to support the cause of Democrats being in office in the 2020s, 28, the late aughts and the late teens and the early 2020s. No one's done more than Donald Trump. I mean, so Joe Biden's a great second, but nobody has helped Democrats get elected quite like, the porn star lover. There's just there's no comparison. The guy is a turnout machine.
Yeah.
He just gets the job done. Does that Donald Trump? But right behind him, right on his heels, it really could be this Joe Biden perspective that truly is. It's a little stunning. And actually, like, policy wise, and again, does anybody really truly care about policy? I think policy is a great rationale for why people tell themselves that their political views are the correct ones. But most people are not parsing policy all that closely. But on the policy front, the big bills that were passed that people are thrilled about, from infrastructure bills to that CHIPS bill, to the ones that have to do with the environment, to what was that? What was that other? The one other big one I can't even remember. There were like three of them. Yeah, well, they broke up
Better Act.
They built back the Build Back Better Act. They broke up the Build Back Better Act by turning it into all these little pieces.
Yeah.
So anyway, Biden's he's just done a heck of a job there, Joey. But who's really having a tough time, and it really is Trump. I mean, the guy is in serious trouble. The walls are closing in. Maybe you guys talked about this last week, but that thing about his business being found guilty of tax evasion.
Oh,
that's huge. That means that people can say, look, Trump's business was criminally involved in tax fraud. So you can say, well, that wasn't him. The company has his name on it. I mean,
this is a guy,
chairman of the board.
Yeah, this is a guy whose whole business reputation is all about him making all the decisions, and it all flows through him. That's what his whole thing is. So you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Doug. I mean, we could talk about Donald Trump all day. He's a has-been candidate. I would much rather talk about. I would much rather talk about the future, and our guest today is Stephannie Baker. Stephannie works as the executive director of Emerge Arkansas. Emerge is a national organization that recruits and trains and supports women who are running for office up and down the ballot, and Stephannie does that here in Arkansas. And so, Stephannie, thanks for being with us today. We're excited to talk about the work that you're doing, and how we can get more really amazing candidates on the ballot, as opposed to bozos like Donald Trump.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Stephannie, you work for a group that makes a special effort to recruit women to run for office.
Yeah.
Very basic question here. And I'm really interested in your long answer on it. Why is that necessary? Why is it necessary to put a special focus on?
The short answer is we live in a representative democracy that's not exactly representative of the people that it's serving. So I think parity is important. When we have, women make up more than 50% of the population, but we're less than a quarter of most legislatures. I think we made some gains in 2022. I think I saw 31% nationally, but still here in Arkansas, we're hovering around a quarter, less than a quarter. And, if we're going to make decisions for all the folks, we should have all the folks having a seat at the table.
Yeah. Well, how come women don't run as easily or as frequently, or why do there need to be important special focus on helping women get to the point that they're going to run? What's in our political system that has made that not an attractive choice for a lot of women?
Well, honestly, I'm seeing a lot more women interested in running lately, as opposed to when I started doing this type of work as a volunteer years and years ago. Back then, it seemed to be a harder sell. Like you would say, like, hey, you should think about running for office. And most people would be like, oh, no. And I think the data back then was around, you had to ask a woman on average about 7 times before they would consider running for office. I'm not really seeing that so much now. I'm seeing a lot of women more willing to run, more willing to put themselves out there, which is great. But the barriers for women are still a little bit greater. We don't see ourselves in leadership as often. So it is a little harder to get folks to do that buy-in. I hear a lot of times like women are unelectable. Well, we are electable if you vote for us.
That's a great point.
We have to change that narrative for sure. But there are also other barriers, and that is that because women haven't traditionally seen themselves represented in these roles at greater numbers, they often question whether they're qualified. And that's where we come in. We are helping these women who want to run by giving them a literal toolbox. We teach them candidate training, and we go through from the beginning of a campaign to the end, all of the ins and outs, just so when they're ready to announce their campaign, they know what they're doing. They feel prepared. They feel qualified. They have the best chance at running their best possible campaign.
Yeah. One of the things that I say often is that, a lot of people that run for office are experts in some area of life. Whether it's education or medicine or, whatever it might be, they're experts in some area of life. That doesn't mean that they're experts when it comes to politics. And our political system running for office can be complex. It can be confusing. It can be intimidating. It can be completely overwhelming. I know that the first time I ran for office, the time that I ran for office, I felt like I was just making it up as I went along, and putting the train together as I was going down the tracks. And I think there's just so much value in being able to say, here's what to expect. Here's what it's going to be like. Can you talk a little bit about what that training looks like and what people that are involved in Emerge's training, like what they kind of get out of it and how they experience that?
Sure. So we offer 2 types of training. Right now I'm recruiting for our signature training program, which is our more intense long form program. It's about 70 hours of curriculum. And we spread it out over the course of, here I'm doing it in 4 months. Some states do it a little differently. We have 27 states. I should have said that at the beginning, I guess. I'm one of 27 states. So that one, people have time to go through the curriculum. They have time for answering questions and digging a little bit deeper. What I do is Emerge has a national curriculum that we have, spent the last 20 years refining from our, many, many different people's campaigns perspectives. But I also bring in expert consultants and trainers in each field to deliver that training. So like we give them the base curriculum and then they kind of like put their own spin on it and like from their own personal experience. So that way it stays up to date. And, then when my participants are doing that training, they have access to that consultant in that field where they can ask real-time questions and get their answers. And I think that's nice to have a variety of perspective, not just one person delivering the information, which first of all is boring, but also myopic. I want them to have access, to lots of folks. So that's how the training works for the signature training program. Right now, we're recruiting for that class. I try to keep that class around 20 people, maybe 25 if we have 25 stellar candidates that apply for the training. But I want to keep it small enough that each woman gets the attention that they deserve and can get the most out of it as possible. And then in election years, we realized the need for a boot camp. And that one is intended to catch people who are actually running that cycle in that election cycle. So it's candidates only, like current filed candidates only for that one. And it's all of the same curriculum, but fast and furious, super condensed, because you're in a campaign. So the purpose of that one is to kind of refine your campaign plan and supercharge what you're doing already. So that one is a little more responsive instead of planning.
Yeah. Stephannie, if there's somebody out there who's thinking about like, maybe I should run for office, whether it's school board or city council or Congress or state legislature, like whatever it might be, somebody's just, this idea has kind of, they can't shake it. What would be like the one or two like really fundamental pieces of advice that you would give someone who's thinking about running for office?
I think the most important thing is preparation to get yourself there mentally. I do offer a workshop series called the Step Forward Workshop. It's about an hour-long participatory workshop. I do it virtually. And that's for folks who are exactly in that position, who are like, I think I want to run for office, but I'm not totally sure, and I need to make that decision. And I go over in that workshop how to prepare yourself as a human, how to prepare your network, and then how to prepare yourself as a future candidate. And it just gets you thinking about all the things you need to think about when you're going to be a candidate. And at the end of that workshop, the goal is, of course, to move folks from I'm thinking about running to, I think this is a thing I can do. Or sometimes, no, this isn't a thing I can do. And that's a valid choice too. So that brings me to my second point that I really want to emphasize. Like, most people are qualified to run for office. You just need the tools. Everybody can learn, right? But you have to be prepared to work hard. It is really hard work. It's, Rob, it's taxing. It is. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And a lot of times you do that. You pour your whole heart and soul into this. And here in Arkansas, you don't always win. And so you have to me, I want folks to understand what they're getting into before they get into it, to understand that it is going to take, you can do it, but it's going to take a lot of dedication and hard work and time. And then I also, when I talk to women about running, because we are running under kind of extreme circumstances sometimes here in Arkansas, which is what we're working to change, of course. I like for women to think about what else makes it worth it to run. If you obviously you want to win. That's the goal. We want to win. We want to affect policy change. We want to do better in our communities. But short of winning, what else can you accomplish in your campaign?
Yes.
And I think that's an important thing to think about. So when you get to that end, that is a goal you do have control over.
When a lot of people run for office, or think about politics even, they think about it in terms of political parties or maybe political perspectives, conservatives or progressives or moderates or Democrats or independents or Republicans. Does your group work with one side of that or the other? Do you work with all people?
No, we are a partisan organization. So our group only trains Democratic women. We are a partisan organization. That does not mean you have to run as a Democrat. You just have to share those values with us, with the organization. We have a code of conduct and core values that we share. And that's what we talk about when we do our interview process for our selection committee to review applications and do the interviews. We talk about values. And so folks who go through our training may run as a Democrat for U.S. Senate, or they may run nonpartisan city council, school board, whatever the choice may be. But we do have core values that we share, and we are a partisan organization.
Is there a similar group doing this only for people running as Republicans?
I don't know the answer to that. Not that I know of.
Yeah.
Not that I've seen for Republican women. There are some nonpartisan campaign schools, of course.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think there is a specific focus for Republican only women, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, let's talk about Republican women for a minute, Stephannie, because I mean, I think a lot of us think, oh, well, we definitely need more women to run. We definitely, and that's going to bring a more progressive perspective. Women tend to vote Democrat. This is a good thing. And then you look at our state where we just elected a governor and a lieutenant governor, both of whom are women, both of whom are really right wing, Trumpy kind of women. And you look nationally at Republican leadership, and you've got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we think of the conservative side of things as being sexist and holding women down, holding women back. And yet at the same time, there's, example after example after example of women leading on that side. How do you think about that? How do you I don't know. How do you reconcile that? What's your perspective on all that?
Well, my personal perspective is that there are people of all different types in the world. So obviously there are going to be women who hold Republican values. I do think that, speaking personally, not as a representative of Emerge, because I don't think we have an official opinion on Republican women. Sure. But I do think that the Republican side tends to love supporting women who uphold the patriarchy. When they find that example, they're going to run with it and they're going to embrace it because they love it. And I do think that's what happened here in Arkansas with our governor and our lieutenant governor. Those are women who don't support policies that support women. And I think the Republican Party loves them because they can claim, hey, we're supporting women, but they're not actually voting to support women and families, the policies that they are proposing. So that is a reason why we are a partisan organization and why our organization decided to only train Democratic women. That's why we're not a nonprofit. That's why we're a 527, because we very much want to train women who will also work to propose policies that will help women and families. And so that's my short opinion on it, is that you're going to find people of all types, and that means that there will be women who are Republicans.
Yeah. Do you, we saw nationally that the Dobbs decision had a real impact on voter registration, particularly young women registering to vote, and then voter turnout. Women turned out to vote in really high numbers across the country, and it made a difference in so many of the really close elections that we had during the midterms. Are you seeing the same kind of uptick or wave of women being involved when it comes to, we saw it with voter registration, we saw it with voter turnout. Are you seeing it with new candidates for office as women are thinking about running in the upcoming elections? Like, do you think the Dobbs decision's having an impact on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. And, I tuned in right as you guys were talking about nobody's done more for the Democratic Party than he, who I'm not going to name right now. But I think that's true for women too, because honestly, when he won in 2016, a lot of women were like, wow, we did not expect that to happen. That's not what we were anticipating. And it did, I hate that it took that to galvanize some folks, but it did. It was like a wake-up call. And I think Dobbs was kind of another one of those tipping points, because we had been hearing murmurings of it, but I don't know if any of us really believed it, except for, I have friends who are working within reproductive justice, and those folks were sounding the alarm long before this happened. Right. And I wish we had listened to them, but even I was like, surely the Supreme Court's not going to do this to us. And when they did, I think women realized, well, gosh, we're going to have to take power into our own hands if we want to, maintain bodily autonomy. So yes, I'm definitely seeing that as a galvanizing call for women who want to run and want to have their voices heard and say, hey, you can't do this. This is not okay.
So you had described this, you say to somebody like, hey, you ever think about running for office? And oftentimes people are like, whoa. And like, when you just kind of give them the little like, hey, here's why this is a good idea. What's in that? Like, what's in that pitch that you give them?
Yeah. So first of all, again, representative democracy is important. If you're a part of the society, you should have a voice. You should have a seat at the table, everybody. And specifically when I'm talking about training women, I also have a specific focus on what we call at Emerge, the new American majority of women. And that's Black, Brown, Indigenous, LGBTQ, unmarried, young women. We want all of the voices at the table. So we're trying to focus on, identifying the power that's been ignored. That's what I'm trying to do, is bring those folks, the folks who are already stepping up in their community in other ways and care about their community. They're passionate about helping folks. Those are the folks I'm trying to find to run for office. So that's when you find those people and you help them connect the dots to what they're doing and how they can amplify that politically. That's the sell. That's the easy part, because you're like, they're already invested in their community. They already want to make it better. The problem is getting over that hurdle mentally of like, saying, hi, I'm Stephannie and I'm running for school board. Like, that's a hard thing to say for folks. It's a hard thing to put your name on a ballot. And so by giving them these tools, I'm helping. There's also a lot of data around the effectiveness of women in politics. And this is just data, fellas. I love y'all. Y'all are great. But when women are elected, they do tend to work more collaboratively, work across the aisle with their partners. They tend to bring home more dollars for their constituents at home. They tend to pass more bills. They tend to propose more bills. That's data. You can look that up. Women tend to be more active and more effective when they're elected.
We are totally on board with the idea of the United States Congress being 100% people like Katie Porter, right? Like that. Like we're totally on board with that. In a second. Stephannie, what makes a good candidate? Like what makes and maybe the more fun question is what makes a bad candidate? What's the that's the question I want to ask. What's the thing when you meet someone who says, hey, I'm going to run for office, and they make you go, I don't know about that. Like what's the thing that would give you pause about someone wanting to run?
So if we're framing it from what makes a bad candidate, I think the number one thing that gives me pause is when I question their motivations. The motivation has to be pure, and it has to be motivated by wanting to help the folks in their community. That I think is the number one thing. When it's for self-promotion or power or revenge. I've even heard some people want to run because like there's one law that, they want to, I don't know. I don't think that's good enough. I think it has to be, there has to be a little bit of an altruistic motivation there.
And you mean that because you think it doesn't make them a good candidate, or you feel like you wouldn't be a good representative? Because there's always this two sides to it, which you know so well, right? There's like getting the job candidate running for office and then being in the job.
Yeah. And both, actually. I think that, voters want authenticity. They want to see that you really care about them. They want you to run as you are. And if you're not running as yourself, if you're not running for the right reasons, I think voters can sense that pretty quickly. So I don't think it makes a good candidate if you are running for the wrong reasons. And I think that you'll be less motivated to do a good job if you do get elected.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. My faith in that has shaken in the last 6 or 7 years when I've watched a series of people, first and foremost, whose primary pitch is we're going to own the libs, or it's all about revenge, or it's all about extending personal brand. And that has become a success narrative on the Republican side. I worried that maybe the veil's been pulled back, and that's secretly what it's really always been about. So I'm glad to hear that you're that's not true. So thanks.
Well, I mean, I think it was true in 2016 for sure. I think that people voted for that brand. They voted for in their mind, they were like sticking it to the man. Like he didn't represent like party politics as usual. And for some people that was exciting. I do think, you guys opened this podcast by talking about how he's losing his grip and kind of everything he touches does not turn into gold anymore. It's the opposite of that. So I think people are realizing that that's probably not the way to go. And I also think like we as an electorate had a little more faith in him. That he was talking that way as campaigning. And then again, when he did the job, like we thought he was going to behave differently, and he didn't. And I think that's been something that was eye-opening as well. Yeah.
Well, one of the things we've realized in all of our work with candidates is that contrary to what a lot of people think about politicians, because politician has a pretty negative connotation in our society, right? Like people even use it as a disparaging term, like don't be so political, you're such a politician. People think that politicians are into it for themselves, that they're greedy, that they're sold out, that somebody gave their campaign a bunch of money, so now they just have to do what they say. All that narrative, right? It's all over the place. On every political side, people just throw shade on, politicians. Our experience has been most of the people that we've met, which have been hundreds of them, elected officials and people running for office, they're tremendous people, really wanting really good things, and don't have almost nothing to do with that kind of view of politician. Do you see that same thing? And if so, why do you think we have this view of politicians that they're all the Beloviches or Beloyevich, the guy, you can sort of name the criminals, right? Trump and Beloyevich and these kind of people.
Well, I do think that that's a narrative that we have in America. And I don't think it's completely, there is some factual nature to that. I think that's why organizations like mine exist, because we are trying to change that narrative. We're trying to change who gets to be a politician, what you think of when you think of a politician, because we don't want people to think of that. We want people to be invested in their own democracy. We want people to realize that their vote matters, and we want them to vote for people who matter and people who know that they matter. So that's part of why Emerge is out here in the community. I mean, I'm out here recruiting 365 days a year, whether it's an election year or not. I'm constantly talking to women about running for office because I want to change that narrative. I want regular folks to run for office, regular folks who care about their community and just want to make this world better for everybody. And I think that the more we do that, the more we introduce candidates who are regular people who really care about their community, the more we will change that narrative. But it's a little bit of an uphill battle. Once you have that stereotype, it's a little hard to overcome. And I'll say, like, I know you guys had Kelly Crowd on. She did our Emerge training program. I also worked as her comms director before I took this job. That's a very non-traditional candidate who did a lot of her campaigning on TikTok, doing, this great distillation of heady politics into like 60-second, digestible clips. And at first, people weren't really sure about that, but it really resonated with a whole new group of voters and young group of voters. And I think taking those chances, that's one of our core values, is risk taking in Emerge. And that's why, because we can't always do what we've been doing that's not working. We have to try new things too. And we have to try new ways to reach folks. And that's how you break out of that politician narrative. I don't think anybody would have accused Kelly Crowd of being a politician.
No, she's one of our favorites. And
great.
Stephannie, 100% of the candidates that I talk to, after their campaign is over, say to me that the thing they hated the most was fundraising.
Yes. I think that's true across the board. It's so hard. Fundraising is hard.
Yeah.
And I think that especially for women, we are kind of taught to not talk about money, not ask about money. And we feel like almost apologetic asking folks for money. I do just want to say that there's too much money in politics. There is. And I wish we could change that. But until we can change that, we have to know how to fundraise.
I want more money in politics, but
so much. I want people to have to stop asking people to chip in $5 1,000 times a month. Because you can't run a business off a chip in $5. It's killed American politics. But anyway.
Rush me $5 today. Yeah. So
the urgency of those emails kills me. I can't stand it. And I have like 10 of them a day. It's a lot. No, but fundraising is an integral part. And we do fundraising training as part of this campaign training. I bring in, again, an expert consultant who is a fundraiser for big campaigns. I'm not going to say her name, but she just came off of a really large campaign. She's the one that I've signed up to do our spring training. And then after we do this whole presentation, we first start with like how to make a budget for your campaign, like what factors go into that budget, and then how to raise that budget for your campaign. And during part of that training is we actually have the women Rolodex themselves as part of their homework for that training. And they're going to make calls while we're on a Zoom together. They're going to mute themselves. They're going to make those first calls. So they're going to do those hard asks in a supportive environment for that first time. So it kind of breaks the ice there. because the hardest part is just doing it. And even for me, like I have to fundraise as part of this job. I have to put it on my calendar and I have to hold myself accountable because I don't want to do it. It's hard. And, you'll make 50 calls and like 5 people will answer and 3 of them will be mean. Like that's how it goes. But then you have wonderful conversations with folks too. And my point is you are giving people an opportunity to invest in a shared vision. And that's no small thing. That's a good thing. And when I'm talking to women about raising money, you're not raising money for yourself. You're not saying, give me money so I can do this thing. You're saying we are investing in this campaign because we all care about this same vision for our community. And it is a little bit of a barrier, but that's why this training exists, again, to kind of demystify those barriers and break them down a little.
Yeah.
Well, Stephannie, this is really great. And, we get you. We do the same kind of work. And in fact, while I have you here, if there's any chance you could chip in $5 to Vote Common Good, it would really mean a lot to us and really go a long way. So
I do have a t-shirt in my closet.
VoteCommonGood.com and just chip in.
Okay, you two become monthly sustainers for Emerge, and I'll chip into y'all. We'll cancel
totally. 100%. We'll get a nonprofit in there, and we'll just keep the wash cycle running.
Stephannie,
listen, I do want to say before I don't know how much time we have, but I do want to say I believe in our training. I believe it's the best thing to equip women to run their best possible campaign. And I just want to mention that, we're still a work in progress here in Arkansas. We had our first training here in 2019. I've been in this position for right at 1 year. Last week was my 1 year anniversary here. Thank you. So nationally, we had 650 alums on the ballot in November. And 528 of them won. That's a 71% win rate for Emerge, which is pretty incredible. And that includes a 43% win rate for first-time candidates, which, as y'all know, is pretty phenomenal. First-time candidates, depending on what study you look at, win 10 to 15% of the time. So the Emerge training is helpful. It works. Here in Arkansas, we had 20 women on the ballot, and we had 5 wins. So now we have 7 Emerge women serving in office here in Arkansas, and I'm very proud of that.
Generally speaking, I know you probably don't have these numbers in front of you. What kinds of positions are these people first running for? Where are they landing?
It really depends. It really depends on the woman. We have people like Lucy McBath, who did the Emerge training and then ran for Congress and won and is an amazing congresswoman. Here I have 2 city councilwomen in my county who, they won their city council races the first time they won, and they're serving at the local level and very happy doing that. So really it's a broad spectrum. When I'm looking at my 7 here in Arkansas, 3 of them are state reps and the others are serving at the local level, either county or city. And one
that's tremendous. And I bring that up because a lot of people, if they're new to politics or new to thinking about running, they don't even know all the positions that they could run for. The people don't
honestly,
really
that's
know.
A slide in my Step Forward workshop. I literally list every possible thing you can run for in Arkansas, just because people don't realize there are so many things. And also one of the things we talk about is how to match your passion to a position, but also keeping in mind your capacity. And like, are you willing to move? Like, don't run for lieutenant governor if you can't move to Little Rock, Don't run for state rep if you can't spend 4 months out of the year in Little Rock. Like there's a lot of things to consider. And also talking about fundraising, like how big is your network? Like think about who's in your network. Can you fundraise for a state rep race? Because it's a big, big difference between running for quorum court and running for state rep, how much you need to fundraise. So those capacity questions are things we talk about as well, because we want these women to be successful and have good experiences. So we want them to run for the position that best suits them.
Yeah, absolutely. So Stephannie, here in Arkansas, if anybody who's listening or watching is here in Arkansas, you're the person that they need to connect with. But Emerges in 26 other states, 27 states total. So we've got folks all over the country. How can they, if they can't get connected with you because they're not in Arkansas, like how do they find you? How do they find their equivalent of you in their state?
Sure. So if you're looking for me, contact@emergear.org is my email. That's emergear.org. Website is the same, emergear.org. Find us on Facebook. It's Emerge Arkansas. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the things. Not TikTok because I'm not as cool as Kelly. And then for national, it's just Emerge America. at all the things. And if they go to the Emerge America website, there is a form. If you're interested in running, you can just like click on that form, go to like trainings and say, I'm thinking about running. And that'll put you in a database. Someone from the state, it'll kick you to that state and they will contact you. There are also training programs you can apply for.
And you can fill that out before you make the decision, because doing this, getting plugged in can help you know what you don't know that will help you make the decision whether or not you should run.
Sure.
So if
I would suggest folks who are just considering, I suggest just reaching out and talking to somebody in your state, or doing the Step Forward workshop. I do have one more of those coming up January 3rd. I think is the date. I haven't posted that one yet, but that'll be the last one before our application deadline is January 8th. So I'm doing one last Step Forward workshop. I would suggest starting there because the training is a big commitment. And so like, if you're really not sure, I don't think you should apply for a 70-hour 4-month training. Like that's a lot. Yeah. That's a big commitment. But that training, you don't have to know when you're running for office. That's for folks who are running in 2024 and 2026. Just you do want to run at some point, and that helps you feel prepared when you're ready to run. So I would suggest the Step Forward or just a conversation with the ED of that state.
Are you running any student government training for the kids in 6th and 7th grade that are putting together the student council? Are you starting early with any of those kids to get them trained up?
No,
I only think about that because you think about all the youth sports, how these like 6th graders, they're talking about, this is how you become a professional, soccer player or professional lacrosse player. They're always starting with the kids.
I love seeing Gen Z get involved. I love what they're doing. I love if they're in student government. No, Emerge does not delve into any middle school or high school politics. I will say my daughter started a petition at her school yesterday for extra recess, and she already had 10 signatures. So
she's amazing. She's one of those. She's like trying to put something on the ballot. She's like working on ballot initiatives. We want more recess time.
She got a teacher to sign, and she's like ecstatic about that.
Oh, nobody wants more recess more than teachers in an elementary school. Teachers would be the first 30 signatures at most elementary schools. Like, hey, could we do a 2.5-hour recess? That would be. I'm not saying they're lazy. I'm just saying they know how hard it is to keep kids,
Well, and also, this is off subject, of course, but my master's is in public health. Kids learn better when they move more. This is just common sense.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for all this great work and mostly for being with us today.
Yeah. And just anybody who's watching, reach out to your local Emerge or go to the national page. They'll connect you to your local Emerge. For me, again, contact@emergear.org. Applications are open until January 8th. If you want to run, I want to give you the tools. So reach out. I'm happy to chat.
The best. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks, y'all.
So now we stand and we brag about you for a little bit. So thanks, Stephannie, for being on with us.
Doug,
she's great, huh?
Stephanie's she's a friend, and it's fun to have a little opportunity to kind of expose my friends to the country, because they're just doing great work, and
people doing great work. Are you going to get a Christmas card from her? Do you think she's got a Christmas card list?
Probably not, but
because that's just how it goes around the Ryerse house. Like it's just nothing but year end, mattress sales coming into that mailbox.
That's right.
A full day. Special thanks, of course, to Stephannie and for being around, and for people in the comments. Hey, Carol, good to see you in here. Vera, thanks. Kimberly, thanks for your comments. And if you're watching this now and you're like, how come this wasn't live? I don't know. Somehow it didn't go live on all the places, so we'll put it up on all the places. People won't get to see it live. But got anything else, Rob?
No, I'm good. Got a big day. I'll be flying to New York City a little bit later today.
Today? You're flying somewhere today?
I am.
Good for you.
Yep.
Okay. Well, Dan, anything else? I think Dan had a plumber.
No, I've got a plumber upstairs. It sounds like he's dropping bowling balls every 5 seconds. I don't know what's happening up there, but it's very loud. And the dog is not happy about it.
He's ripping your house apart. Well, we didn't even hear it. So whatever you did, well done.
That's the mute button. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're back tomorrow with Ani Zonneveld. Ani runs a group called Muslims for Progressive Values, and Ani's going to talk to us about what's going on lots of things, but including this little conversation we had a couple weeks ago about how the Christians in Malaysia were fighting against Christian nationalism as a Christian party. So really a unique perspective. So join us again tomorrow, and then we're back on Thursday. People from the Zao community. So all kinds of stuff going on this week. So stick with us, and we'll see you tomorrow.